Hey guys, this is Gutsy here, bringing you another video. This one actually is going to be talking about day one of the main event of TI8. I just thought I'd do like a little blog on my thoughts on the day. So, excuse me. So, it was actually a really good day overall. I really enjoyed it. The first game was Liquid versus Optic. Everyone kind of expected Liquid to win that, and they pretty much won it in the regular fashion. But one thing I would like to point out is I've seen a lot of people complain about how anti-fun Liquid is. And I've never really understood that because I really like Liquid as a team. They're really hard not to like. Everyone on the team is very likable. So I kind of understand what people mean by anti-fun from the games that later followed up in the day. So I'll probably explain that a bit later on, but yeah, they're basically so clinical that they don't allow anybody else to kind of be a factor in Dota games. And even if they are, it's still like they have the situation under control to an extent, even if they lose the game. So I'll try and explain that a bit later. But yeah, that's Liquid versus Optic. The loser interview of that with PPD, he was mad compared to the rest of the loser interviews, which I think the majority of everybody else was sad, which is to be expected. But I think PPD was the only one who was mad, and I thought that was kind of interesting. He wasn't like furious or anything, but you know, he was usual PPD with the salt. Like, he took something that Machine said as hostile in a way of like assuming that they were going to lower bracket, but Machine clarified, and you know, PPD was good about admitting who's the better team and everything, which was nice. It's just who he is. Next up, you had Virtus Pro versus LGD. That was a massive, in my opinion, an upset. I don't think people predicted LGD to win, and they 2-0'd Virtus Pro. So basically, Virtus Pro had game one pretty much in the bag, and then it all came down to one whiff black hole when they were knocking on LGD's front door. And they had time to back and everything, but they decided to keep fighting regardless because they were kind of winning it. But LGD just played it perfectly. You know, maybe deked the black hole, which made it a whiff. It wasn't just a whiff. Maybe definitely planned that out to happen. And then they just went up mid because Virtus Pro had no buybacks and they lost. So game two, your moral's completely gone from a game like that. It's basically like you just won the whole series from a play like that. And Virtus Pro is done. Their loser interview, Solo actually... Sorry, I said everybody was mostly sad today. I don't think Solo was sad because he knows he's in loser's bracket. Like, he has another chance. I think he was mad, but he was reserved mad, whereas PPD more lets out his emotions. I'm not going to talk about the winners' interviews because I don't think, you know, nothing really comes out of those credible. Like, when I think of the Curl one, he's very humble and everything, but nothing new really from those. I really like losers' interviews. They make you feel bad, but that's the point. Valve's, they mentioned this last year, they're trying to show you the other side of things so that you don't just like shit talk people who lose in your pubs, right? They're people too, and they go through emotions, and sometimes, you know, people are invested and they get upset, and you need to see this so that you know not to be a dick yourself if you're ever in a winning situation. And if you're in a losing one, then you'll know how to do it. They do it in every other sport on the planet. They do loser interviews, and most of those, it's so normal that no one's actually upset. They're just they just talk about their loss, and eventually esports will get to that point. But right now, you still have, like, I'm not going to say kids, but young adults playing video games, so it's still at that point. It's not fully professional yet. Then we had our best of ones in the losers bracket, Fnatic versus Serenity. This is the match that I figured would be the most up in the air, next to possibly TNC and Mineski. Sorry, I think I said Fnatic and Mineski. I meant Fnatic and Serenity. But, so I didn't know whose way it was going to go. I thought Fnatic, because they've been showing some pretty decent results. But an Envy team, unfortunately, is always like a hit or miss, you know? They're very they're either super good at times or they're super bad. And unfortunately, this EE just had a really bad lane. It's not his fault. It's not like he had a bad draft or anything. He just had a bad lane. And, you know, they fell behind because of that, basically. Loser interview with EE was hard to watch because he's a very emotionally invested person. But honestly, I don't think anybody was bad at the loser interview. Going on to TNC Predator, I think they had a bad loser interview because TNC lost. That was also kind of a Virtus.pro LGD thing where TNC had, I wouldn't say a very firm grip on the game, but they were doing the impossible, basically. You know, they were beating a Spectre at her own game, late game. But then they had one bad team fight top, which was horrible for them. They didn't lose off that, but it basically evened out the game. And when you're going late game against the Spectre, it's just not where you want to be. So then they lose the next fight, and same thing. Run up mid, they lose Dota. So the loser interview was pretty poor on that one. I don't even remember who it was. I think it was Sam H. Didn't really say anything. So that was disappointing, but he was pretty emotionally invested. Sad. Then, now, out of the whole day, it was good Dota. Like, watching the Virtus.pro LGD and the TNC Mineski was intense. Like, it was intense. But the next two series that followed up was the icing on the cake. It literally made Dota. If I had to tell you out of all the games that happened today which ones to watch, just watch the last two. That literally will get you your Dota fix for the day. It was super good. So then you had Newbie versus Win Streak. Probably the biggest game of the tournament so far. The best of one upset against an underdog. Newbie isn't like this powerhouse they used to be like last year, but they're still pretty damn good. Like, they still were managing to beat, really freaking good teams. And then losing the Windstrike was quite a big shock. And I really like Windstrike's approach. Newbie drafted their usual draft. It was very well-rounded and everything. It looked pretty superior. But Windstrike did an all-in kind of draft. It wasn't a drought, but they drafted pretty early. They had, the late game wasn't really their strength. They had a lineup that could go late game, but they needed to do really well in the early game, and that's exactly what Windstrike did. Non-Grata, off-lane Clockwork, they brought something, it's an old thing, you know. You have Bulba and all these people in the past doing really well on this core Clockwork. And you just don't see it that much anymore. It's very rare, but they drafted it perfectly. Like, it was against the perfect heroes. So they do the offlane clock, and he just... Fogged even said it before the match even started. He said, this is what he's known for. He's known for being a massive pain in the ass. That's what he does. And being a pain in the ass frees up the game for the rest of his team. So non-Grata, that's exactly what he did. He was a pain in the ass in laning phase and a pain in the ass for the rest of the game. Iceberg did really well. Also, he pretty much won mid, which is to be expected. DK's had really bad results this tournament. But, and then all of a sudden they just got the late game. And Newbie was starting to pull out ahead, but they had one really bad Rosh fight. Windstrike just did everything perfectly. And from that point on, it was all uphill. They just did clinical Dota, took, mid racks, took bottom racks, went top, took top racks. They just were very methodical about their approach of making sure that they didn't fuck up. Because there was a point in the late game, none of them had buybacks. If they died, they would have lost. Newbie could have just ran up mid and did what LGD and Mineski did. But Windstrike took advantage. And the loser interview with KP was the best loser interview I've ever seen. It was really good. KP was very emotional. But he delivered. He delivered how you're supposed to deliver a loser's interview. I try and think of a Stanley Cup playoff, and I don't think they interview the losers in that And if I think maybe they do. I think they just kind of like, they say, "Oh, good for the other team." They worked really hard, yada yada, and then they just skate off, right? But this one, they have them more contained, and it's not as informal. It's more formal, so there's a lot more pressure on the loser during the interview. But KP delivered. He acknowledged the non-grata problem, and it's hard. It's hard not to tear up in these situations because you have to wait a whole nother year. You worked a whole year for this, and then it just goes, right? But he mentioned the non-grata problem, and he was like, he said they're the better team and everything, like PBD did. But the way he said it, like, he explained it. He was very good about it. And he said, like, how Silence PL reminded him of when he did PL and knocked out Silent from last year's TI. And that's when you're that emotional, that's really good composure, mental composure to, be thinking like that. And I honestly, out of all the Chinese teams, I like Newbie the best. I think Newbie, emotionally and like character build up, if you're to evaluate teams like that, any team, they're the most likable out of all the Chinese teams, I think. I personally have LGD set for winning this whole tournament. I don't know why I do. I just feel like Chinese always lay down low, and then they kind of spring up during tournaments. You're kind of seeing it now. But I don't know. I in a way, I thought Newbie was actually better than LGD, but I, for some reason, think LGD is going to win the whole thing. We'll see what happens when they fight Liquid. I don't think they're going to be winning that match. Maybe they'll have to go a little bit further. But Newbie was both a surprise and not a surprise at the same time. Windstrike just, they're new. They have that thirst. Let's say thirst for blood. And Newbie just was in a bad spot they're not used to, and that probably also factored. Final game, VGJ Thunder versus Vichy Gaming. That reminded me of old Dota. Not like old rice farming Dota, but, TI4 Dota, where it was kind of like TI4 Dota minus the death ball push. It was just like very skirmishy and very, it was really cool. It was really fun to watch. I think other than the underdog factor playing into effect with Windstrike and Newbie, I think VGJ Thunder and Vichy Gaming's series was probably the most enjoyable of the day. It was super just invigorating. There's lots of unique picks, lots of different things happening, tons of buybacks and stuff. And you had Lanham, Big Dick Lanham, doing his awesome Echo Slams, which are just really invigorating. It brings you back. It's really nice. So Vichy won that one. The losers interview, that was a really, really hard one. I feel like it's different with people that don't speak English because you have the translator, right? And that kind of like doubles the time of what it takes. And you really don't want to be talking to the losers for too long. You don't want them breaking out crying, right? It's very... You want to get their input, but you don't want to push them, right? They're trying their best just to keep composure and whatever. And it felt like that one, they were pushing it. It was just too long. The questions were a little bit... we got a good insight, but they were... Probably could have been shortened and done a bit better. Not a call out the Shiva or anything. It's just that was a hard one to watch. It wasn't as hard as the KP one, but they probably should have ended that interview a little earlier. They might do that tomorrow with the next teams. So today, I really enjoyed today. It was, Liquid was a great opening team. It gets you into the whole here's how Dota works kind of thing. And then the games that follow up were a nice equilibrium. And at the end of the day, it went out with a bang. The last two series were, like, awesome. They were super awesome. Best game, Newbie Windstrike. And second would definitely have to be VGJ Thunder and Vichy Gaming. I'm trying to think. What else happened at the event? The crowd at Vancouver... It's day one, and it's a Monday. A lot of people aren't there. They were selling tickets half price now, just to help fill in seats or whatever. So, the atmosphere was nowhere near as good as in America at Key Arena. Americans are just really good. That's what Americans do. They love the entertainment and the competition, the competitive sports, and they live and breathe that. Whereas Canadians, we still do that too, but we're a little more laid back. So, and you could kind of tell with the crowd. So hopefully that changes in like grand finals day. I assume it definitely will, but you know what I mean. Other things. What are some other things that happened during the day? I mostly just watch the games. I don't really care about the Inbetweens. I listened to the panel and stuff. King RD was... they pointed out he was a bit difficult to listen to. His English isn't as good. He probably... No offense to him, he probably shouldn't be on the panel. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. He could always fix that. That's something. Like, in nerves, like BSJ and King RD, you could definitely tell nerves were playing a factor. March, when he first started, it was playing a factor, but then he just got right into the mood. BSJ kind of got better as the day went by. I love Machine, man. Holy shoot, though. Machine just makes events. Some people were just born to be social. They were born to be... he does the losers interviews. He does all the little in-betweens, and during the group stages, he was excellent. Like, Valve, I'm so glad that they brought him back again, even after the supposed F-up, the comedic F-up he had last year. I think Machine I hope one day he just, like, solo hosts at TI. He's just so good at what he does. And Chobra's good, too. I like Chobra. Red Eye's good, too. Who's the other host? I think Shiver is the other one. Shiver, I'd say she's pretty mediocre. Not the, there's no woman bias or anything there. I just don't think it's her specialty. She's good. She's better than definitely a lot of other people. But I think if they just stuck with Chober, Red Eye, and Machine, it'd be fine. But Machine, I hope one day he just solos. I think he's super good. So it's always nice seeing Machine doing these, especially the losers interviews. He's really good with that. Yeah, that's kind of my review of TI main event day 1. I think I'll do one of each of these for every day. I hope my mic isn't muted. Thank goodness. I would have cried. And yeah, that's basically it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, and I hope you like this video.